The British decided to use the policy of divide and rule to create a rift between Hindu-Muslim unity. Then Viceroy Lord Curzon contributed to it. Bengal was a very large province. To carry out the work of this province was difficult from administrative point of view. By putting up this region, in 1905 he declared the partition of Bengal province. With this partition, arrangement was made such that majority Muslim will remain in East Bengal and West Bengal for majority of Hindus. The hidden strategy of the British was, if the Hindu-Muslim were divided due to partition, then the freedom movement will weaken. The British decided to use the policy divide and rule. Anti-partition movement. There was public awakening against partition not only in Bengal but all over India. 16 October, the day of partition, was observed as National Mourning Day. All over India, there were protest meetings to condemn the government's decision. Vande Mataram came to be sung everywhere. As a symbol of unity, Raksha Bandhan programs were held. Students in a large number boycotted government, schools and colleges and participated in the movement. The leadership of this movement was in the hands of Surendranath Banerjee, Anand Mohan Bose, Rabindranath Tagore and such other leaders. And for that, they arranged the 4-point program. The 4-point programs of Indian National Congress, that Gopal Krishna Gokhale was the president of Indian National Congress session of 1905. He supported the anti-partition movement. Dadabhai Naoroji was the president of 1906 session. For the first time, he pronounced the word Swaraj from the stage. In his presidential speech, he gave the message that remain united, try sincerely, and fulfill the aim of Swaraj, so that today we will be able to save lakhs of people suffering from poverty, hunger, diseases, and India will get a respectable position among developed countries. And the first word, the Dadabhai Naoroji, used the Swaraj. And at times he gave the message, the people should be remain united, try sincerely efforts and fulfill the aim of Swaraj, so that today we will be able to save lakhs of people suffering from poverty, hunger and diseases. Students, we are going to learn suppression of British. Before this, we learned difference between moderates and extremists and the 4-point program of Indian National Congress, anti-partition movement, partition of Bengal, that we learned last period. Now in this period, we are going to learn suppression of the British. After anti-partition movement, the government was disturbed looking at the influential public protest. There the many of the activities were against the Britishers, and British government disturbed by seeing that the movement against them. To control this movement, the government used the policy of suppression. Holding of public meeting was legally banned. Strict punishments were given to those who broke the law. School children were also beaten up. Those school children were involved in the movements, the Britishers were beaten them. Many restrictions were imposed on newspapers. Many printing press were confiscated on grounds of blame of criticizing the government. Writers and editors were imprisoned. Strict action were taken against the extremist leader. This led to a severe reaction in Bengal. This led a severe reaction in Bengal. In that time, the revolutionary adopted the means of firing, bomb blasts, etc. These bomb attacks. The revolutionary adopted the means of firing, bomb blasts, etc. These bomb attacks were advocated through Kesari newspapers by Lokmanya Tilak. The charge of sedition was put on Lokmanya Tilak, for which he was sent to Mandale jail at Myanmar for 6-year imprisonment. Bipin Chandra Pal was sentenced to jail and Lala Lajpat Rai was deported from Punjab. Establishment of Muslim League. The British became very disturbed looking at the overwhelming response to the Indian National Congress in the anti-partition movement. The British once again followed the policy of divide and rule. They started using the propaganda that for safeguarding the interests of Muslims, they should have a separate political organization. Due to the motivation of the British government, a committee of upper-class Muslims under the leadership of Aga Khan met Governor-General Lord Minto. Due to the motivation from Lord Minto, the other British officers, the Muslim League was established in 1906. Morley-Minto Act. There was dissatisfaction among the Indians regarding the work of the British government. The Indians felt that the reason of poverty in India was the economic policy of the British. Oppressive policy of Lord Curzon, exclusion of educated Indians in government services, unjust behavior toward Indians in Africa, all this added to the dissatisfactions of the Indian people. As a temporary remedy on the discontent among Indians, the Morley-Minto Reform Act of 1909 was passed. According to this act, it increased the number of Indian members in the legislature assembly and provision of inclusion of some elected Indian representatives in the legislative assembly was made. In the same act, separate electorate were provided to the Indian Muslims. Due to this conspiracy of the British, the seeds of division in India were sown. Lucknow Pact. In the Lucknow session of Indian National Congress in 1916, under the leadership of Lokmanya Tilak, an attempt was made to resolve the disputes in the Indian National Congress. In the same year, there was an agreement between Indian National Congress and Muslim League known as the Lucknow Pact. According to this pact, the Indian National Congress agreed to separate electorate to Muslim and Muslim League agreed to support the Indian National Congress in its work for getting political rights to India. Home Rule Movement. In 1914, when Lokmanya Tilak was released from the Mandale jail, the First World War had begun in Europe. The direct consequence of this war had to be borne by India as well. The rates of basic necessary commodities increased. Many restrictions were put up on the Indians by the British government. This led to increased dissatisfaction in the mind of the Indians. In these circumstances, Dr. Annie Besant and Lokmanya Tilak started the Home Rule movement. Home Rule means the self-government. Such a movement also began in Ireland against the colonialism. On similar lines, Home Rule movement demanded right of self-government in India. Annie Besant and Lokmanya Tilak made extensive tour in different parts of the country, and the demand for self-government reached the common people. Tilak firmly stated that Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it. First World War and India. The war atmosphere in Europe, growing dissatisfaction in the minds of Indians, popularly of Home Rule movement. In such a condition, it was necessary for the British to get cooperation from the Indians. The British government decided to provide some political rights to the Indians. In 1917, Montagu, Secretary of the State for India, declared that step by step Indians will be given the right to self-government and responsible political system. Tilak also declared that if the government is going to show sympathy and considerable attitude toward the demands of the Indians, only then Indian public is ready to cooperate the British. The policy of Lokmanya Tilak is known as responsive cooperation. Montagu-Chelmsford Reform Act. In 1990, the British Parliament passed another act by bringing constitutional reforms in India. This act is known as Montagu-Chelmsford Reform Act. According to this act, less important departments were transferred to the Indian ministers, whereas the important departments like finance, home affairs, and revenue were under the control of the governor. The 1919 Act did not give much exposure to the demands for the responsible government of India. Everyone was disappointed due to this act. Tilak criticized the act in following words: "This is neither Swaraj nor its foundation." The Indians understood that if they have to subdue the British government, then the agitation means oppositions needs to be more rigorous. India got prepared for a new movement.